Welcome to Syntax, a Generative Introduction, 4th edition. My name is Andrew Carnie. I'm a professor of linguistics at the University of Arizona. I'm the author of your textbook, and I'll be leading you through this series of video tutorials. The second relation we're going to talk about is precedence. Now, intuitively, precedence comes before, so if you say something before another thing, then it precedes it. So if I say the dog, I said that first, it comes before dog, therefore the precedes dog. What's hard about that? Well, it turns out that it's harder to define this in terms of trees than you might think. So let's do a little bit of a deep dive. So here's our first informal definition, and it sort of works. A precedes B. If A is to the left of B, and you're writing in English, where you put the things you say first on the left. But this runs into problems with trees that might be badly drawn, or where you start to look at cases of constituent structures that are higher up in the tree. So first of all, let's note that precedence excludes dominance. So if you are in a dominance relationship with something, you do not precede it. You cannot be in a precedence relationship if you are in a dominance relationship. Now remember, dominance is containment. Look at this picture. Is the ball to the left or right of the box? This is an incoherent question because the ball is obviously inside the box. Well, this same thing is true about precedence and domination relationships. So if you have one node inside of another, you cannot say it precedes or follows it. So consider this poorly drawn tree here. Now here, the verb kiss is drawn to the left of the noun clown. And by the definition I gave you earlier, if it appears to the left of something, then it precedes it. Well, that's got to be false in this case. Even though kiss is to the left of clown, clown clearly precedes kissed, because when you say it, the clown kissed the donkey, the clown comes first. So we have to do something about this. Now, the critical thing that we can observe about this is that the dominator of clown, that's the noun phrase, precedes the dominator of the verb, that's the VP. So we do have a precedence relationship that is correct in this tree, even though the things on the bottom of the tree are poorly drawn. So how do we capture that? We're going to talk about a particular kind of precedence. This is precedence that happens only within immediate domination relationships. So if we define sister precedence as a relationship between two nodes that are immediately dominated by another, that is, they're sisters, if one appears to the left of the other, then they're in a sister precedence relationship. So let's take a look at this tree to see what I mean by that. So if we look at the and man, they are both dominated by the noun phrase node. And the comes from the left of to the left of man, right? So therefore, D, sister precedes N. They are sisters, and they are in a precedence relationship. Similarly, the noun phrase, sister precedes the verb phrase. They share a mother, that's the TP. They're in an immediate domination relationship with that TP. And the noun phrase precedes the verb phrase. So, the noun phrase, sister precedes the VP. The determiner, sister precedes the noun. But notice that although the noun man precedes the verb, it does not sister precede it, right? That's because the noun and the verb are not sisters. They do not share a mother. They share a grandmother, but not a mother. So they are not both immediately dominated by the same node. So we cannot talk about a sister precedence relationship between the noun man and the verb left. This is going to be critical for us getting the definition of precedence correct. So here's our fairly complicated definition of precedence, that is to try and get around these sort of weird little things that the tree introduces. So A precedes B if and only if. By the way, sometimes we write if and only if as IFF. A does not dominate B and B does not dominate A. So that first bit says if two nodes are in a domination relationship, they hold no precedence relationship towards each other. Second part is A sister precedes B, or some node dominating A sister precedes B, or some node dominating A sister precedes B, some node dominating B. So once you take into account all the precedence relationships, you're going to look for a sister precedence relationship somewhere in the tree, and that will give you precedence. We know that man precedes the verb left because its mother, the NP, sister precedes the VP. So also, the noun is not in a domination relationship with the verb, and the verb is not in a domination relationship with the noun. So that meets both conditions of precedence. The noun has a mother that sister precedes the mother of left. This explains why we can't cross lines in a tree. Effectively, you can't draw trees where the lines cross because that screws up this definition of precedence. Because what you would be forced to do is to say that the R precedes Q. But in fact, if you look at the sister precedence relationships up the tree, that's not the case. Because N precedes O, and sister precedes O. So the fact that you can't cross lines falls out from this particular definition of precedence. Don't cross lines. Just like we had a narrow version of dominance, so a small version of dominance, we can have a small version of precedence. And this is called immediate precedence. And that means there's nothing in between the two words that we're talking about, the relationship between. So A immediately precedes B, provided there's no G which follows A but precedes B. Now in my little diagram here, just assume that the words are in fact in a precedence relation as defined by the previous definitions. So we have A, B, and G. A is to the left of B, B is to the left of G. A immediately precedes B. B immediately precedes G. But A does not immediately precede G because B is in the way. A does precede G, right? If G gets, and if you just sort of flip the order of those, you get a different set of relationships where A immediately precedes G and G immediately precedes B. That's immediate precedence. Note that immediate precedence and sister precedence are not the same thing. So take the relationship between man and left in this tree, the noun and the verb. Here, the noun immediately precedes the verb. There's nothing in between them. But it is not the case that the noun sister precedes the verb, right? Because they don't share a mother. So the N does not sister precede the verb, but it does immediately precede it. So don't mix up those two relationships. Sister precedence and immediate precedence seem very similar, but they're not identical. So that's precedence.